Okay, again, we're going to make a concept map. I've given you a paper that just has the main bubbles to put in the kind of civil engineers we're going to look at. And you'll need to add extra bubbles off of those or write your description in the bubble with the main titles of each one, however you decide to organize your work. You will need to take notes, and specifically we want to make sure that you get these 7 kind of sub-disciplines about civil engineering on here, though you should also add the definition of what a civil engineer does. And here's our first definition. I'm going to let you read that. You should pause and rewind as you need to in order to get everything read. And it's showing you a number of pictures. Think about how does this compare to what architects are involved in that we saw in the previous PowerPoint. So one thing you may notice here as you read through all of these is that we're now talking about ABET instead of NAAB that we saw with the architects. Now we have a process for licensing civil engineers that come from ABET accredited universities. We also have the American Society of Civil Engineers at this address that you can look up for information about civil engineering. And civil engineering is one of the oldest engineering career fields. Here's the same information we saw about the architects, but now we're going to talk about engineers. This is a super rapidly growing area. Again, as the population booms in the world, we're going to need more civil engineers to create not only buildings, but as also all the infrastructure for them. Again, we see that civil engineers have to attend a 4-year school, just like architects. Some can also obtain a master's degree. Then they get experience, and then they complete an exam in order to become a professional engineer. There's also engineers that can work as technicians or technologists with just 2 or 4-year degrees. But in order to be a professional engineer, you must complete the added years of experience and the exam. So these are our 7 types of subtypes that fall under civil engineering that we're going to look at individually. These are what you want to make sure you get on your concept map. The first one is structural. Just think of what the word structure normally means to you. It's the thing that provides rigid and strength to different structures. It's going to be our columns and our beams and buildings. In our bridge here, it's going to be these uprights and the horizontals and all these cables. It's what makes it strong enough to withstand all of these natural disasters. Environmental. Environmental generally is a subset under civil engineering, though there's also environmental engineers that sometimes universities offer a separate degree, but often it falls under civil engineering. Please read through the various things, and we've discussed some of these in class already. Geotechnical engineer. If you break the word up, geo, like geology, we're talking about the earth, as it says here, soil and rock. But technical because we're looking at the different structures that we might need to go underneath the ground, including these listed here. Water resources. We're talking about all of these listed here when we talk about water resources. These all fall under things that civil engineers are concerned with. Not only getting clean drinking water, but our beaches, preventing erosion, preventing floods, irrigation, and treating the wastewater that once we've used the water, how can we treat it so it becomes once again drinkable water? Or at least so that we are not poisoning other things like our oceans and our rivers and our lakes. Transportation, super, super important. Please read through all these examples so you're sure you can see what different kinds civil engineers are involved in. Notice that it does include airfields. So once again, even though we may have aerospace engineers working on the planes themselves, we still have civil engineers involved in aerospace because we have to design the hangars and the air landing ways and everything else. And construction. Engineers oversee the construction. This makes sure that the construction happens the way architects have designed, everything's done properly, everything's to spec so that things will not fall down later. Urban planning. Most cities have urban planners in them. They're the ones that design all of the infrastructure, as well as recreational areas, streets, building, the different zones in an area so that we know which parts can be residential housing, which can be commercial and industrial. For instance, you really don't want in the middle of your subdivision to have a factory. That's from zoning. They tell you where different parts can be. So here's a little list of who will hire civil engineers. Private and public sectors, academia means universities. They're also involved in research and development, marketing and public relations, and so on. Here's a little bit of pros and cons. You may want to jot a couple of these notes down. So private sector, working for private companies, versus public sector where you're working under some government branch. Please take a minute to pause and read through the pros and cons of each of these. And then here's the information about if you want to become a registered professional engineer. Basically, every engineering project has to be signed off by a professional engineer. Other engineers can work on it, but on the bottom line, a professional engineer has to be at least a supervisor and sign off. You're going to make more money if you're a professional engineer because, as I said, every project has to have a professional engineer overseeing it. Here's the requirements. You've graduated from an accredited university. You've taken the exam. You have the required number of years of work experience, and you've also passed this exam here. And that's a summary of what we've talked about in this PowerPoint. Thank you.